Hey everyone, Selena here, Selena Baca Crochet. This is take two, so if you were here earlier, it was not you, it was definitely me. The sound in the video was just all wonky. I don't know why. I turned everything off, I made sure everything was plugged in, I restarted. Hopefully this works. I'm just here because I'm really excited to tell you guys about the simple baby blanket pattern. It was kind of on hold because last week I felt terrible and I'm feeling less terrible today. So I just hit the publish button on this crochet pattern and I wanted to walk you guys through it and tell you all about it. So if you're watching and you can see me and you can hear me, let me know. I would love to hear, especially on the replay. Sorry, especially on the live, because that's kind of important, like whether you guys can see me and hear me, right? So let me know. If you're watching on the replay, hopefully that means there are no sound or video glitches. You guys can see and hear everything just fine. And we can just kind of chat more about the simple baby blanket. All right? Oh my gosh. Of course, everyone, all the technology things for everything. Okay. So simple baby blanket. This was made for my second grandson. Second grandson was just born recently. I made my first grandson a blanket that looks kind of like this, but it's different. I wanted them to have the same but different baby blanket. I wanted to use the same yarn. I wanted to use the same color palette, but different. And I wanted there to be these beautiful blocks of color for each color that I used. But I wanted the stitch pattern to be different. So I wanted them to be the same but different, if that makes sense. You know, I'm a sibling. I had there were three of us growing up. And so I just feel like it's nice to get the same but different things. So that's what I'm trying to like pass on to my grandkids. So the simple baby blanket if it looks familiar, again, there is something that, this is something that I've kind of done in the past. I've really enjoyed playing with really dense stitch textures whenever it comes to making baby blankets for the babies in my family. But what I want to do is create a completely different stitch pattern and stitch texture for each of these baby blankets that I create. So hopefully you guys dig this and you think it's cool. So the thing about this baby blanket is that I did make this in a very specific yarn. Again, I wanted that yarn to match the yarn for my first grandchild. I wanted them to have the same kind of thing. But that yarn is finite. I don't think it's going to be around forever. I definitely think that it's something that's new and hip and happening now, and it's maybe going to be out for maybe a year or so from now. But I wanted to make sure that this stitch pattern, this blanket, could be made with any yarn that you want to use, and you could make any size that you want to make. That was very important to me. So I made this very specific blanket for that specific reason. But I didn't want this pattern to get lost because you guys can't replicate this thing exactly, right? So what I did is I put together a worksheet. And that way you guys can choose any yarn that you want, any yarn type, fiber, weight, color, any of that. You can choose any one that you want. And you're going to follow my instructions to make a little swatch. And then by the end of that swatch, you're going to understand exactly what to do to measure your stitches and measure your rows so that you guys can make any size blanket that you want. You know exactly how many to chain. You know exactly how many rows. You can follow the common blanket sizes that I've put in this pattern. So if you want to make something as small as like just a little lovey, a 12 by 12 square, or you want to make something as large as a king size, like 108 by 108, you can do that using this worksheet. But you don't have to follow these exact measurements exactly and go, well, I want to make a crib size blanket, so it has to be this big. It's just a guideline. For example, I very rarely follow this guideline exactly. So many times, I want something roundabout. So typically, like even for this blanket, I think this might be like 30 by 35 or 35 by 40, something like that. So you can make something a little rectangular, but if you want to make something square, like 60 by 60 or something like that, you can totally do that. So this is absolutely adjustable in size. It's adjustable in terms of yarn, and it's really, oh, all right. I've got some questions coming in. Sorry. And I'm still a little like head fog cold. So fog from my head colds. What? Don't pay attention to me, but don't pay attention to me. I'm not 100% today. Margaret, so good to see you today. Thank you. Hopefully you can see me and hear me, and there isn't the glitch anymore. Hopefully. Margaret says, what do you mean to match the one you made for your first grandchild? Have I missed grandchild number 2? The blanket texture looks amazing. Yeah, so my first grandchild, I made them a blanket that looks very, very similar to this. But it's the same but different. Hold on. Let's see if we can look at it together. Okay, so this is my second grandchild's blanket right here, this simple baby blanket. And at first glance, you might think it looks exactly the same as, where is it? That's the one that I made for my niece, my last niece. First grandchild. Where is it? Oh my gosh, so many patterns ago. Here, best baby blanket. So, you know, I'm getting real creative with the names here. And if we look at this one up close, this is the same yarn. Hold on. I did use the same yarn. There is an interesting texture going on here. I did do those 5 blocks of color. There is that border in cream. So if we're looking at this next to this, we see that there's a lot of similarities, right? So my first grandchild's blanket, this is it right here. This is a completely different stitch pattern. Different. It is not the same than this stitch pattern. Different. But I did use the same yarn, but just in different colors. So and even the sizes are just a little different. Like I didn't make the sizes exactly the same. So this one is just a tiny bit smaller than this one. So they have some similarities, but they're different, right? So this is the best baby blanket, first grandchild. This is the simple baby blanket, second grandchild. Make sense? Hopefully it makes sense. Okay. Yeah, Margaret says, welcome to the Cold Club. Yeah, I don't want it. I want out. I want to cancel my subscription. Do not want the membership to this. I'm over it. I'm getting better though. It's like 3% better every day. So I feel like I got a ways to go. I have about 10 more naps before I'm healed maybe. Okay. So again, you can use any yarn. You can make this blanket in any size. That was important to me because, again, I don't think this yarn is going to be around forever. I love the way that it looks. I love this yarn. This is definitely a yarn that I wish they would keep around, but you know how yarn companies do us. They're like, you love it? I'm going to take it back for just a minute. I feel like that happens a lot. So really, you can choose a yarn that you like, maybe you already have on hand, maybe that you think is nice, maybe that you think is soft. And you can make something as small as a baby blanket. You can make something that's a throw for your living room. You can make something that is a bedspread for your bed. I mean, really, you can make any size that you want. What I love about this particular stitch pattern is that it is small and it is dense. So there aren't any holes in it. It really is going to keep you nice and toasty warm as a blanket. I love blankets that have holes and have like that kind of open stitch work and things like that, but it's nice when it's not there too, right? So I really appreciate this because this particular style of blanket, this dense fabric, it's not only nice for warmth, but if you're making this for a baby, you can put it on the floor and it's a nice little floor mat for them to, you know, just kind of hang out on the floor, play with their toys or whatever you want it to do. Okay, great question from Margaret. Would this pattern work for a temperature blanket? I'm going to say absolutely yes. As a matter of fact, all of the past baby blanket patterns that I've made, I think that I've made 3. Yeah, I think the last 3 baby blanket patterns that I've made have a very dense stitch texture, have a very short, it's a very short in terms of actual row height. So if you are using, you know, a smaller weight of yarn, I'd say if you're making in the traditional sense, a temperature blanket to where there's going to be 365 rows or something like that. I think that this could work great because this right here, this baby blanket size, I think this is probably like 100 or 120 rows or something like that. Between 100 and 150 rows, let me say. And this is probably like at least a 40 inch or something like that. So if you wanted like a throw size blanket and you wanted to have those 300 and some odd days represented, I think this could be an excellent one if you chose a yarn that was smaller in weight. And that way you're not going to create this, 8-foot long blanket. You're going to have something that, is 6 feet or under, something like that, something that would be reasonable. So yeah, I think it would absolutely work as a temperature blanket. Hello, Roseanne. So good to see you. Thanks for chiming in. All right. So back to this worksheet again. Using any yarn, using any yarn weight, using any yarn type, you can make any size blanket just by following this simple worksheet right here. I had a huge round of pattern testers go through this. I think I had like 25 different people working this up. And the sample that I asked them to make up was just to use any yarn that they wanted. I'm going to show you the yarns that they used in just a minute. But they could use any yarn, and I wanted them to use this worksheet, follow this swatch for gauge, to make just a 12 by 12 and then add the border. And I kind of played around with the format of this. You can see how it's this, you know, it looks like a worksheet. I understand where to key in numbers. I understand what measurements to take. And I had such great feedback. Deanna, one of my favorite pattern testers, said, I love the updated math section, much easier to follow. Thank you, Deanna. Also, Elaine, one of my beloved pattern testers, said this looks great. It's easy to read and much easier to fill in if one chooses to print it out. So the pattern testers really enjoyed this particular format of the way that I've written out, put this here, take this measurement, all of that kind of stuff. So what I love about this as well is that, you know, especially for blankets, if you're like, well, Selena, you're telling me to choose any yarn. I want to make a particular size. How do I know how much yarn I need? What is the yardage I need? So I have this worksheet as well that you can go through so that you can easily and quickly find out exactly how much yarn you need for the exact blanket that you want. Whenever I put my pattern formats together, here, let me make this a little smaller so you guys can see. Something that I really love in terms of pattern formatting is I want something that's easy to view on a computer screen, but it's also printer friendly. So I've gone through a lot of work to make sure that, yes, these patterns look very simple because I don't want there to be a lot of graphics and images and fancy writing and things like that. Like those can look cool on the internet. Like those can look cool even when you print them. But I think that, you know, by having a bunch of graphics and different colors and fonts and things like that, it's not only, you know, it's harder to read for most people, but it also takes a ridiculous amount of ink. And it just seems that so many people want to print their crochet patterns. So I want there to be as much white space as possible. And I want you to be able to quickly and easily see what you want to print and what you don't want to print. So for example, this is a 3-page pattern. So maybe you don't want to print the cover page because you're like, I don't really need that. That's fine. Every single page tells you exactly what pattern it is. So every single page has a header, simple baby blankets, you know what it is. It tells you the page number down below, so you know what page of what there is. And so if you just want to print the worksheet, you can do that. If you just want to print the pattern, you can do that. Again, it's saving you time, it's saving you ink, and it's saving you from all of that frustration. So when it comes to the pattern, something that I've been trying to do as much as possible is add a stitch chart. That way, yes, you can just kind of read through the instructions and follow along, but you can quickly and easily see, oh, here's row 1, this is what it's supposed to look like. Here's row 2, this is what it's supposed to look like in terms of this stitch repeat right here. So it's very easy to follow at a glance because you have all of those pieces of information. So this is my brand new pattern, this simple baby blanket. I finished it for my second grandson. It's already, you know, all the ends have been sewn in and it's, you know, already been delivered and all of that. It's no longer in my hands. This was truly such a joy to make. I really, really enjoyed putting this together. I loved the yarn that I chose. The stitch pattern was really fun and easy to work up. I was able to just work on it in the evenings while I was just kind of, you know, watching TV with my family. So it went by very quickly. It didn't take all of my time and energy and things like that. I love that I can use any yarn to replicate this. I can make this in any size. So as a matter of fact, you know, I keep saying square blankets, like I'm kind of in this square blanket kick to where I want to make like a 60 by 60 or like maybe a 70 by 70 for my couch or my bed. And I want to use a super thick yarn. Like I want to use like a weight 6 or a 7. Like I want it to be ridiculous. So stay tuned on that. I've got about 20 projects that I've got to make before I can do that. So hopefully I can do it before fall of this year. So wish me luck. As you guys are working up this blanket, I would love to hear from you. So come on over and join my group. Link for that is in the video description because we'd love to see what yarn you're choosing. We'd love to see how your blanket is working up, what size, all of that. So definitely come on over and share. I love seeing all the projects that you guys make for my patterns, and absolutely post your projects to Ravelry because it's such a great way for everyone to view just, you know, some ways to be inspired, right? Because here, again, we can see my blanket. You may go, I don't have that yarn or I don't want to make that size. but you can absolutely go through and look at all of the different finished samples. You can see like, this is what it looks like solid. This is what it looks like in this color solid, that color solid, that colors. Here's what it looks like in 2 different colors. If I make, the blanket solid and the border a completely different color. Here's what it looks like if I stripe my yarn. Here's what it looks like if I do blocks of color. So, I mean, really, you can just get tons of inspiration for this. In terms of yarn, here are all the different yarns that my pattern testers used. Hobby Lobby, I love this yarn, was used twice. All these other ones were used just once, but Big Twist Twinkle, Lion Brand Woolies, Lion Brand Cupcake, Lion Brand Cotton Ease, love that yarn so much. Lion Brand Vanish Choice, Premier Yarns, Just Yarn Worsted, and Big Twist Cotton. So lots of different options here. And of course, you can use, again, any yarn weight, any type, any color. And you can quickly and easily see just by making the swatch in the pattern whether or not you love all of those choices together. So it's definitely fun to check out. Whew. All right, Penny is here. Hello, Penny. So good to see you. Roxanne, yes, you caught me live. Hopefully you guys can see and hear me better this time. Hopefully. Margaret says, wow, that texture is out of the stitch. Wow, that texture is out of that stitch combo. Wow, simple but beautiful. Yeah, so if you just kind of got a sneak peek of my stitch repeat over here, yeah, it's a super simple and easy stitch repeat. It's something that I've done in the past, but this is kind of like an updated, better version. I made the sides better. So it's something that as I was working this particular stitch pattern, I never really loved the sides because they were open chain spaces that I didn't really like. So I fixed it. And we still get that great stitch pattern. So yeah, it's a very simple stitch repeat. It's a very simple row repeat. It looks great from either side. So it's reversible, great texture. And again, you can really have so much versatility in what you do with it. All right, guys. And on that note, I have rambled enough. If you guys dig this pattern, the Simple Baby Blanket, it was just put out today. Definitely snag the coupon in the video description so you guys can get a huge discount on this pattern. And yeah, keep me posted. All right. I'm here if you got any questions, and I'd love to see your projects. All right. Peace, love, crochet, everybody. See you next time. Bye-bye.